Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak to transportation professionals, you guys, because I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take this information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Corey Buchan, happy Monday over on YouTube. April Maroney, let's go. She's coming in over on LinkedIn. Sunny Sharma, good hot as hell Monday morning. Orange shirt gang, Chris and Cody. Dude, where Cody and I are, man, it's actually like cooling down. And, you know, with that being said, I'm going to bring my man Cody back. Cody, it's not 115 this week, bro. It's only going to be like 10 or 8.
I know, right? We finally got a little bit of rain last night. I don't know about you over there on the east side, but we got a pretty good little monsoon. That's the first one of the season for us.
Dude, really?
Yeah, oh, yeah. It was. I started hearing something outside, and then I walked out there, and you know, it was actually downpouring pretty good. I mean, it was very short lived. It was like 10 minutes, but we had a big old dust storm roll through, and then right behind it was a bunch of rain. So,
dude, we've been getting actually a ton of rain over on the East Valley. Like, I've probably got rain. But when we say a ton, you guys, in Arizona standards, like if it rains for like 5 minutes in the day, that's a lot of rain out there. So no, man, it's been good so far, I think, from that. But you know, dude, I wanted to bring you on because, you know, as always, I'm like, there is a certain camp of individuals and organizations out there that only talk about like the negative side of things. And, you know, that there's a lot of I think it's just a lot of bullshit that's being thrown out there. But then there's this other camp of individuals, and these are mainly the individuals who I have on my show who are actually in the industry and like actually working and doing the things that a lot of people post and write articles about. And I wanted to bring you on because, like, dude, like we got to find solutions no matter what. And I want to kind of put this out there to individuals. Like, there are people who are adding customers. There are people who are growing in these markets and who are actually moving freight contrary to what you hear out there. And, you know, that's why I wanted to bring you on, man, because I know you are, you know, every time I text you, you're always like, oh, hey, I got this meeting, or I'm just going on this trip now to go see these prospects and everything. So it's like, to me, it's just like, I just need to bring people on there to talk about, hey, you guys, it's not nearly as bad as what some people want to make it out to be.
Yeah, don't buy into the doom and gloom. I mean, look, the freight market, it's not the hottest right now. We all know that, right? You're not getting new customers every single week just by cold calling and cold emailing. You have to put in a lot of extra effort now versus, you know, all the guys that got in during COVID when it was really easy. Yeah, I mean, you could get a load any day out of the week because everybody was, you know, if you were a shipper, a grower, or manufacturer, you were waking up in the morning thinking, please just give me some capacity, right? That's not happening right now, right? So you have to go back to, you know, you and I are cut from the same mold. Like we were doing this shit way before COVID hit, right? So we understand that's not reality. I mean, if you look at the data pre-COVID, what was the closure rate of most brokerages? 2%, you know? Yeah, it's so, you know, that's reality still. And I think it's just been such a shocker to a lot of people that, you know, oh my God, I can't just pick up the phone and make 10 cold calls and get a new customer. That's just not how it works in a normal market. And I think that I don't really think it's that much of a down market personally. I think it's actually stabilized pretty well. Yeah. We're starting to see some seasonality again, right? You know, we saw a seasonal bump for the 4th of July. We saw some seasonality return in April when produce season kicked off. We definitely didn't see a housing season like we normally do, right? Yeah. Because interest rates are kicking everybody's ass. So I understand that. It'll be interesting to see what Q4 brings, to see what, you know, we always call it the Black Friday rush, right? Like what all that stuff is going to bring to the table. But, you know, at the end of the day, you can sell in any market. You just got to pivot, right? Like the way that you sold a year ago and the way that you sold 2 years ago isn't the same way you're going to sell today.
Yeah. A lot of the, you brought up the seasonality of things, and there's always like, anytime there's like a little sliver of hope, people are like, oh, the market's going to recover. The market's going to recover. And it's like, no, that like, this is like what we're experiencing right now is a normal freight market, in my opinion.
Right.
It is like, you brought up the seasonality of things. Like, as a lot of you probably noticed, after the 4th of July, that week, the week of the 8th, rates were probably up a little bit. Capacity was still kind of tight because, trucks weren't necessarily leaving their houses for free. And then last week, things kind of broke free. Rates started to drop. And then this week, I think it's going to be, again, there's going to be that little bit of a lull before Labor Day. And then that's when it's going to pick up, and then it'll taper out, and then it'll shoot up for the holidays. And that is how a normal freight market responds. And it's like, I'm always so quick, or I'm so hesitant, to sit here and say anything other than this is normal, you guys, because I don't think that a lot of people can actually comprehend that, like, this isn't going to be a cataclysmic rise at all. I think like I've been talking about, it's going to be a ratchet up effect. And then it's people are going to look back and see like, holy shit, like there's actually somewhat of a recovery compared to 12 months ago or 18 months ago, or whatever that looks like. But I don't have 18 months to wait until things change. Like, I got to win now, man. I got to convert now. And, I think a lot of people need to focus on that. Like these headlines aren't going to get you business. All right. Waiting for anything to happen isn't going to get you an opportunity. So it's like, what are you doing? And I'll talk about what we do from a business development standpoint, because again, I don't talk in theory, I talk in practicality, because I actually fucking do this job. I don't, just have a podcast because I think trucks are cool. And then, so it's like, how are you guys out there, especially dealing with the produce world and being in that niche, which you guys are?
Yeah, a lot of it is just returning back to, how we used to prospect and how we used to interact with customers pre-COVID, right? I mean, last year was kind of the first year that we really got back to boots on the ground, because a lot of customers were allowing us to come back in and, go meet them, go play around a golf, go do whatever, it takes to, just build that rapport. But I mean, that face-to-face is so priceless, because I was on the other side for 12 years, right? Like I was on the shipper retail side for 12 years running a warehouse. And, the big thing for me was the people who actually wanted to show up and actually work with me and help me get better at my job, right? It's not all about drinks and golf and dinner and all that shit, right? Everybody can talk about that. Anybody can do that. That's I mean, as long as you got a credit card, that's sales, I guess. But, the most important thing is sitting down and actually like figuring out where you can add value and asking the right questions. What do they need value add? Because what you think that people need sometimes, and more often than not, they don't, right? They probably have that I dotted and that T crossed, but everyone has challenges. Every single company, every single person in positions of power when it comes to the customers that we're talking about, they all have challenges that they're facing. But if you ever go into a conversation thinking that you already have their challenges solved, like that's not how you sell in this industry, right? This industry is all about building relationships and getting down to how can I provide value to you guys, and value is different for everybody. You always say, and I agree 100%, your truck showing up on time, that's the standard, that's expected. So if you're going to sell based off of that and say, oh, we have a 98% on time delivery. Cool. So does everybody else, big fucking deal. So,
dude, man, I'm like, because like to me, it seems like what you're preaching is I mean, I obviously fully agree, because that's my mentality with a lot of these things is what a lot of people rely on as like their only means in their pitch is like what is standard for a lot of the higher performing individuals in this industry. And from my perspective, man, I won't actually be able to find out where our real ability to kind of improve their operations are until I'm actually moving freight for them, right? It's going to be finding out like what is the most efficient way to ship their products. Are they only moving them on certain days of the week where it's like, hey, if we move them on this day of the week, we're going to improve capacity. We're going to probably actually save you pricing on those different strategies. And you won't get that unless you're actually moving their business. But, from my perspective, again, like this is why I talk about a niche so much on there, because I think so many people are going after too many different things. And unless you have the industry experience out there, like I would highly advise against most people going after 6 or 7 different types of freight to move. I think you got to start with one, get some actual experience under your belt, and then go after that, right? Like, I mean, you and I talk all the time. Like you're like, hey, I don't mess with overdimensional or open deck. That's your world. And just like with me, man, like I don't really mess with produce loads. And if I ever we'll give each other, heads ups on stuff all the time, because it's like, hey man, this is your wheelhouse. This isn't my wheelhouse.
Yep.
And I think like that's how you really stand out, in the market is there are very specific things. Like I had a guy on last week who he comes from the produce world. His dad is a produce broker, and like he knows all, and he was talking on the show, and I'm like, fuck man, I'm like, this is why I don't do produce loads right there. That's what I was thinking to myself. And every time you and I talk, same thing. I'm like, this is why I don't do produce loads, because there's so much more that meets the eye. And this is why people need to almost take a step back instead of taking the spray and pray methodology to business development. And they really got to get super focused in there until you've moved a high volume of freight.
Oh yeah, I agree. Niche-based selling is honestly the way to win in this industry, right? Like, be good at something. You don't have to be good at everything. We're not all the big 3-letter guys, right? And we don't have divisions that are supposed to be good at everything. Be very, very good at something. And once you are good at that, you're going to be able to predict a lot of the challenges that most people are having out there, and you're going to be able to have a value add before you ever even talk to anybody. That comes with niche selling, right? Because I know that contradicts what I said earlier, but in reality, like if you're really, really good at overdimension and heavy haul and flatbed stuff, your sales pitch versus a sales pitch from somebody like me who has absolutely no idea how to run that stuff is going to be completely different, right? And your closure rate is going to be much higher than mine. So I agree. The spray and pray method, it just doesn't work. I mean, it might work when, if I pray that we never see, capacity tightening like we did during COVID. I hope that really is a once in a lifetime event. But we've all been through, 18 was tight too, right? 18 was tight. You had the ELDs, the tariffs, all that stuff that affected the market. And back then it was easy as crap to really prospect any industry because everybody needed capacity, right? Didn't mean you were going to perform on it though. Didn't mean you were going to do a great job. And I guarantee a lot of the customers that people gained through those big capacity crunches, they probably aren't customers now, right? Because those customers are going to weed out the guys who don't perform when we're in a market like this. But when you're really good at a niche, own that shit, market it, make sure everybody in that niche knows who you are, right? Make sure that, build relationships like you and I, right? We're technically competition, right? Like, we're competitors against each other. But at the end of the day, if I have a customer who needs something moved that I know you're going to do a 10 times better job, I'm going to send them your way. You're not going to steal my produce rate from them, right? Like, so, but I need to be there for the customer. And if I can't be that person for that customer, I'm going to find a partner like yourself who is reliable and who can deliver and who I trust can, that I can send their freight and they're going to come back to me and say, oh, thank you, Cody. Like, Chris did such a fantastic job, and everybody wins at that point in time, right? Your customer wins, you win, your chances of getting more freight is probably going to be higher because you delivered on something that probably other people couldn't. Just get to the bottom of it. But I was always taught that, I think it's the 80-20 rule, right? If you're doing 80% of the talking, you're not, as a salesperson, you should be doing 20% of the talking and let your prospect talk 80% of the time, right? Ask your questions that are, relevant to getting to the bottom of what you need to understand if you are going to be a good fit for them to move their freight. It's pretty simple.
How are you able to kind of break through? Because like one of my biggest areas of weakness is that initial couple of phone calls, right? It is that how do I really stand out on the phone or via email or whatever my preferred method of outreach is? How do I stand out during that time? And, like my biggest, and like, this is why I always go back to like, when I'm trying to call people, especially here locally in Arizona, my thing is, hey, I'm local. Can I stop by and introduce myself? Can I stop by and introduce myself? Because I do 100 times better in person if I'm actually looking the individual in the face than I ever will over the phone. But with this being such a phone heavy thing, how do you work through those initial cold calls?
I mean, number one is speak with confidence and conviction, right? Like understand what you're talking about. Do your research on the front side. If you're calling somebody and they're, I don't know, I'm just going to use some random examples. If they're popcorn manufacturer and you're talking about moving some reefer loads for them, probably not going to, win any freight. And then two, I mean, the biggest thing is like referrals, man. Referrals go so far in this industry, right? So like this is the biggest, smallest industry. And what I mean by that is everybody's connected some way. I remember when we were younger, there was that stupid game, 7 Ways to Kevin Bacon or whatever. Same thing in this industry, right? Like you never know. People move around all the time, and you'd be surprised that when you're prospecting somebody, just take a look at their LinkedIn. They probably know a handful of people that right? And if they happen to work with that person or worked with that person in the past, and that person can vouch for you. I mean, I've won quite a bit of freight this year just by referrals. Mm-hmm. It is very tough out there right now for cold calling and cold emailing. I will definitely attest to that. But lean on your network. People like yourself. I mean, there's more people that know you than know me by far. And half the time when I'm looking at people on LinkedIn, before I'm ever going to prospect them, they're either connected to you or, a Samantha or a Cassandra or something like that. And just do your research. And some of that research means reach out to, hey, Chris, this guy, can you tell me a little bit about him? Right. Type stuff. So you got to go that extra mile now. So if you're, I typically, if I'm going to prospect somebody, I'm going to look up their information. It's going to take me a day or two before I do my first outreach to them, realistically.
Yeah. It's no, I mean, that's all really, really good advice out there. And, I put a post out last week that, it took us 18 months to get our first like referral load from a customer, because it's like these referrals aren't just like handed out willingly, right? Like you really got to fucking earn that. And especially if it's your customer referring you to their customer in that, like you got to really, really perform at a high level. And, I think that the first couple of outreaches, again, it's like, it is all about doing your research. I think like a lot of it is if you're going to call a dry van shipper and you just go to their website, you can see, hey, they manufacture plastic bottles. There's a high probability that they don't need reefer. Right. So maybe go in there and talk to them about that. Introduce yourself. And again, like speaking with confidence and conviction, I think is really crucial. And I talk about practicing your pitch all the time. And it is like, I do like, if I strapped a GoPro to me, like, I think people would think I was certifiably insane. Cause I talk to myself a lot. I have to, I coach myself up on a lot of these situations as well as I'm going in there, where it's like, I just break my cold call down into a couple of different little parts. It's, hi, my name is Chris. I'm the founder of Freight Coach Logistics. Hi, my name is Chris. I'm the founder of Freight Coach Logistics. We're a third-party freight broker that specializes in open deck and heavy haul transportation. And I'll just fucking break that down into 3 separate parts. So it's like, I want to be able to have that roll off my tongue at any given moment, because I think when you do make a ton of dials in a day, you get voicemail or, they're not here, hang up 99% of the time, right? But in that 1% or that 2% where people actually answer your phone, you can't be like, oh, holy shit, I can't believe you actually answered. Like, you need to be able to let that flow in those moments. So I think like, again, instead of focusing on the end result, and I mean, obviously I want revenue and to develop business as well, but like there's a beginning stage of business development that people need to focus on and get down. And then I think, again, the most effective thing is don't fall into the paralysis analysis phase of, what if I say it? No, just fucking say it and then just do it. And then you will cultivate your actual pitch through repetitions. That's where it comes from. That's why I'm able to spout this off like the way that I'm able to do, because I've said it so many times that it is second nature to me.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, like if you're going to spend time analyzing anything, spend time analyzing your calls after you make them. I love doing that, right? Like what we record our phone calls and everything. So I go back, I'm in the same boat. I talk to myself way too much, honestly. And a lot of that comes from like, going through and replaying everything that you did. Okay, maybe I could have, pivoted this way during this part of the conversation and stuff like that. And there's, it's tough because it's like when you go to buy a car, right? Or maybe that's a bad example, but all of us get solicited every day from telephone companies or, insurance, or the best one that I get a couple times a day is extended warranty for your vehicle, right? We
Yeah.
all have a barrier up when we hear that shit, right? When you look at your phone and it's a number you don't know, and you're like, it's probably spam, right? But you pick it up anyways because who knows what it's going to be. And then immediately when they're, hey, is this Mr. Chris Jolly? And I'm here to talk to you about an extended warranty for your phone or for your car and all this shit. Immediately we have a wall up. It's the same thing for customers, because you got to think they're getting 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 phone calls a day from people like us, right? So what are you going to do to sound different than the other 50 that are calling, right? And there's all sorts of things that if you start diving into all the sales training, it's vocal tonalities, it's all this stuff, right? It's when to pause, when to all this. But at the end of the day, it's just another person on the end of the line, right? Talk about reality with them. Don't make it too complicated. A lot of people make it so complicated. And, I don't believe in scripts. I believe in, bullet points that you should probably touch on every phone call, but I don't believe in scripts. Let the conversation flow as it's supposed to.
Yeah. I like to focus on, value. It's like, this is what we do. This is what we do. It's not, let it add us to your distribution list. Let me quote this and this. It's like, no, this is what we do. This is what we specialize in. This is what we could probably work with. And this is just all assumptions based on the research that I've done about these companies, you guys. Like, I don't have any inside information, but realistically, if I'm calling a coils manufacturer or a steel manufacturer, there might be a probability that we go to a job site, right? So I want to sprinkle that stuff in there. Or, I like to go, or do you guys go business to business? Do you guys go direct to consumer? Is it, on some of these ones, is it warehouse to warehouse? Or, again, in the food world, stuff like that, are you going direct to a grocery retail site? Are you going to the distribution center of it? Are you going to a third-party warehouse? Because again, how many companies out there, they might manufacture at a co-packer and then it goes to another third-party warehouse geographically that sits there until their sales orders come out and go out. So again, you guys, there's like 87 questions that you could ask out there besides, hey, can you let me quote on your freight? Our trucks show up on time.
Yeah. I found you on LinkedIn and figured that I'd hit you up. Yeah, one of the big things that we get, right, because we target a lot of the larger enterprise retailers and stuff like that, is, we have our own private fleet. Well, cool. But I understand, that might be for your DSD deliveries, your direct store deliveries. But I guarantee that there's not very many companies out there that are backhauling more than probably 30 or 40% of their stuff, right? Especially your regional guys. Say you're prospecting somebody who's got a very large presence in the Southeast, for example. Their apples are still coming from Washington. Everybody's apples come from Washington at certain points of the year, right? Yeah. Your lettuce is still coming from California or from Yuma. So, they might have a private fleet, but their private fleet isn't driving to Washington to backhaul apples for them, for example, right? So it's just doing your research and making sure that you understand, there's objectives and they're trained. Most people are trained to have objectives, right? We always talk about gatekeepers. Those gatekeepers are trained to have objectives to fire off at everything we bring up. Mm-hmm. So train yourself and understand that those be ready for those objectives and make sure that you have something that is a value add to those instead of just, yeah, I understand, but that's the worst thing you can say. I understand you have a private fleet, but it should be okay. Yeah, I understand you have a private fleet. This is where we can offer, some value add. Ask some more questions. Where does your private fleet run? That's a very valid question. It's an easy question too. It's just, I don't know, the two biggest things, value add and ask. Like you can't get enough information from a prospect.
Yeah, I'm right there. Cause like another one that we get all the time is, hey, we're good with our current network, or we're not adding anybody right now. And I always like to use that is for me, it's like, all right, how do I improve? If they're good with their current network, I'm going to want to know, to be like, hey, I'm actually, as a business owner, as somebody who's hired contract labor before, I know how fucking sketchy things can be out there, right? So like when you do truly have a network of quality providers, like my instant thing is not I'm better than them. It's like, dude, I'm actually pumped that you have that. Can I ask you, and this is what I usually do. Hey, can I just ask you, what are they doing so well right now? Because as a business owner, I'm always looking to improve. And if they're doing something that I'm not, I would love to know so I could possibly apply that to my current customers. Again, for me, it's about furthering that conversation because again, I want to stay because most people are good and they're going to tell you that they're good right away. But just like with everybody, they're not going to be good at some point. And I want, and I'm convinced of this. I've had some of my friends that are shippers, allude to this as well. They have a file of really good people that they're going to reach out to in the event that they need somebody. And then they also have the exact same file of never under any circumstances, not even if there's a fire, will I reach out, So it's like, to me, I'm like, all right, how do I chip away slowly as like, hey, you guys, we're good. Like we're effective, we're knowledgeable. This is what we do. And I want that perception to be out there with my company is it's not, all right, have a great day. It's like, all right, how do I further this conversation along? Just to kind of stand out like, hey, we're not just about providing trucks. Like, I want to see the system that you guys are running to see if the system that I'm running aligns with what you're looking for. Because at the end of the day, not everybody who I talk to, I'm going to want to work with long-term.
Correct. Yeah. And I think it was actually one of the shippers that you had on talked about, information up front too, right? Like you would be shocked. And I've been shocked every time I've talked to some of our large Fortune 500 customers that we work with that don't have a grasp on the market outside of their own freight, right?
Correct.
A lot of it's because of data sharing, laws and stuff like that. We work with the largest online retailer that starts with an A, and I won't go after that. They have zero data outside of their own. Zero. So just because they think that a lane from LA to Chicago pays X because it's always paid X for their network of carriers and brokers doesn't mean that they're even, looking at what a national average is, and so some of those guys, they just don't, like I said, I worked for a large shipper. They don't want to subscribe to a DAT or a Sonar or something like that because they think that I'm moving so much freight. We've got a $2 billion freight spend. We've got a good grasp on what our freight should look like. Well, yeah, you probably do, but you don't understand where you stack up against, a national average for those lanes. Right. And obviously national average, it's just that it's an average. That doesn't take into account all of the little idiosyncrasies that go into every single lane from, certain shippers to certain deliveries. Yeah. We all know it's easy to deliver to certain people, and it's really, really difficult to deliver to other people. And most carriers know that too, right? When you say a certain delivery spot, it's either, oh, okay, great, or shit, so understanding that a lot of those guys don't have access to the same data that we do. We do a newsletter monthly. I know that you do a newsletter as well. And we blast that out to every single one of our customers, whether we're moving freight with them that month or not. And the big thing is just keeping them in the loop, letting them know what they don't know, right? Our job is to make our customers' lives easier. That's all it is. That's literally all we get paid to do, right? That's the reason we take a margin off of a load, is because we're doing things that they either don't have the manpower to do or, quite frankly, don't want to do.
Yeah. And I know we're almost at the top of the hour, but you got a minute because I want to, okay. So when you say, like sending out data to your customers, are you using like the DAT chart or green screens chart and you're sending that out there and it shows like national average is 235 a mile? Do you send stuff like that out to them, or do you guys curate it specifically with your guys' internal data and letting them know like, hey, capacity is tightening, rates are going up, rates are going down, stuff like that?
We do a blended model. So, we partner with both DAT and FreightWaves, and then obviously our own internal stuff. But we do everything blended, and we try and tailor make it too. There's certain customers that we work with that are very regionally, and there's national ones. The national ones are going to get a lot more data than the regional guys. But, I got a really big customer in Utah, right? They don't give a shit about what freight rates are from California to New York. It doesn't matter to them. So we tailor make it to those guys to make sure that they're getting the most accurate data that impacts them every day, right? And then obviously some forecasted data, the best that we can. Forecasting is very, very difficult in our industry, but it's just as difficult for our customers as well. So, making sure that you're having those collaborations. And then, we love our quarterly business reviews. Some of them do monthly business reviews with us. That's like such a golden opportunity that a lot of people don't take. And I make sure that myself, I'm on all those calls, because it's not just for my sales reps to say, okay, our on-time delivery was this, and our, load count was this, and blah, 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 blah. And hey, high five, you guys did a great job. Every one of those opportunities, that is an opportunity to ask questions. How can we grow with you guys? What can we do? Is there an extra step that we can take? We have a very large customer of ours that is very big on, SmartWay certifications and minority business owners, right? So they're very, very big on the minority business owners. They're publicly traded, and it's one of their KPIs. And they have 2 brokers that they work with, myself included, that actually help some of the carriers that we work with get their MBE certification, because they want to know, just because we have our MBE certification, they want to know that we're continuing that down the pipeline, right, to get MBE certified carriers as well.
Yeah.
And that's a value add for those guys. And I won't lie, it's definitely helped us get more freight from them, because we're willing to go that extra mile and help some of these carriers get that, and then recording it and sending that data over to those guys. Same with the SmartWay certification. If you guys aren't SmartWay certified, it's fairly easy as a broker, and you really should be doing it. It's a big one for a lot of people. And quite frankly, like, we're all going to be mandated at some point in time to do it, right? Yes. Yeah, I would think so. So, just get ahead of that and find out what the value adds for your customer. I have some customers that are very large that say, none of that stuff matters to them. And then I have some that it matters a lot, and figuring out what matters to these guys, and, really what's going to drive that relationship forward.
Dude, I love it. You guys, you can literally listen to this episode multiple times and come up with a plan to go out there and help you guys develop business and everything else. But that is going to be it for today, you guys. I think I have guests coming on almost like every day this week, if not every day. And again, you guys, we're going to continue to bring actual insight from transportation professionals, like we always do, that you can apply to your business. You guys, there's no theory on this show. This is what people are actually doing to grow their brokerages, trucking companies, and everything else out there. But as always, you guys, if you guys got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.